Yes.
Oh, we're live. I didn't mean to hit record, but now we're going. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 2M Football.
I'm Mike here.
And I'm Matt, and we are continuing our trek through the AFC North. We're going to bring it up with the Indianapolis Colts of the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, the Baltimore Ravens. Same record as the Indianapolis Colts. 8-8. Also did not make the playoffs. Let's dive right in. Ravens were in the driver's seat of the AFC North with a 7-5 record after week 13. They had already won over Pittsburgh once, which isn't easy to do, important division win, and they were in control of their playoff fate at that point. But in the final 4 weeks, everything kind of went off the rails. They lost to the Patriots, to the Steelers, to the Bengals, and their final record of 8-8 just wasn't good enough.
It was those division games in reality. The Steelers lost and the Bengals lost because division games can help with tiebreakers.
Tiebreakers, right.
And losing them, I would almost say division games are more critical than any other ones because those tiebreakers can make or break your playoff runs.
Yeah. And they were only 3 games. Well, they ended up, 3 games behind the 11-5 Steelers, but another division win against them would have put them 2 away.
And then the win over the Bengals would have put them
right
in contention.
Yeah. It's too bad, really, because they had a good season, particularly on the defensive side, as we'll get to. But first things first, we'll start with the offense, where they were not too good. They averaged 21 points per game, which was 21st in the league. 347 total yards per game, which was 17th. 256 of those are passing yards, which was 12th, but just 91 rushing yards per game, which was 28th in the league. And a big part of these offensive struggles was because of the offensive coordinator spot. So they've had 5 different offensive coordinators since 2012. That's one every year. And this year, it was Mark Trestman, at least at the beginning. Remember him? Bears fans will remember him. He became the OC in 2015, which was kind of a lost year for Baltimore because they lost Flacco that year. They lost Forsett, I think. They had a lot of injuries that year. So it was a bad year, but Trestman got another shot in 2016. But it didn't last long, though. Only 5 games he was the offensive coordinator.
I think a lot of that has to do with Flacco, as much flack as he takes, no pun intended. And Ravens are my 3rd favorite team. Mike's not the biggest fan, but I always, in terms of all the teams in the AFC North, they're kind of up there with one of my faves because they're a very physical team.
Yeah.
Flacco, surprisingly, a lot of people just seem to forget this apparently. He's got a big arm.
He does.
And I think the problem with their offensive coordinators is they're trying to find someone who can utilize that, and nobody seems to want to do that. And I don't get it. You have a quarterback with one hell of a gunslinging arm, and you're making them throw, under Trestman, short passes.
Yeah. And throwing too much, in my opinion. We'll get there in just a second, though. Under Trestman, they only averaged 18.8 points per game in those first 5 games. And then they fired him after that because they were 3-2, but they really got kind of lucky to have that record, and Trestman wasn't helping. And then Marty Morningwig took over.
God, I love his name.
It's a great name, but
I'm going to put it up on the board to spell Morningwig.
Things didn't get that much better, though, for them because he was just kind of opposed to running the football, even though they have a pair of good running backs in Terrence West and Kenneth Dixon, the rookie.
They got better with the run game, though, later in the season, but at that point, I think their fate was sealed.
Yeah, we'll get back to Flacco for a minute. He was... Falco, captain. He was coming off a torn ACL. Like I mentioned, he missed most of 2015. He had a pretty mediocre season this year. He was asked to... Hang on. I hear you gearing up to fight me on this. They had him throw the ball a career high 672 times. That was also most in the league this year.
I have a feeling by a wide margin too.
Yes, let's go with that. I don't have the numbers.
Great research job.
So he did, throwing it that much, he did get his first 4,000 yard season.
Well, I mean, if you throw it 670
You
times,
better, right?
I hope.
But it wasn't because of efficiency. He only averaged 6.4 yards per attempt, which was fourth worst in the NFL.
Harry, I was about to say that wasn't too bad, but
I think it might have something to do with, like you said, throwing too many underneath passes, not really letting it loose. But he only had 20 touchdowns and 15 interceptions to go with that. It was a pretty bad year. He's never really been that quarterback that'll get you 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards, like a Drew Brees type or something like that. But still, this was a new low for efficiency for him.
I think a lot of that just comes, like you said, mid-season coordinator changes are always difficult for a team that's struggling as is.
Yeah.
A lot of it, I think, and this is in the past few years, since they made their Super Bowl run, they've just given up on the deep ball, it seems like. Their big plays just aren't there, and I don't understand it. To me, it's a waste of talent.
Yeah, because like you said, he has a huge arm. But they
don't. It's almost arguable he can throw the ball farther than just about anyone. With ease. Yeah. It's not like he has to strain for it. He just...
No, that was something I know. He just kind of like... It's a really quick release. Almost looks like he's just flicking his wrist and the ball 40 yards down the field. It's impressive.
And it baffles me to see that, he's only throwing 8 yards up the field on these plays. And you're like, he's more than capable of throwing it 15 plus yards.
Yeah, and like we'll get to in a minute, they have receivers who are more than capable of running the deep routes.
Unfortunately, one of them retired.
Oh, I've got a whole thing on Steve Smith. Let's...
We'll save that.
We'll save that.
Flacco isn't. I'll come out and say it. Even though I like him, he is an average quarterback. He's not in the extremes of, like you said, Brees, Rodgers, Brady. But he fits this team, I feel like, and he has for the time he's been here. Right. John Harbaugh has always been a fan of him.
Yeah.
I just think that I feel like his talents are getting wasted as he continues to stay, and I don't like seeing that.
Another thing that didn't help him was with Morningwig's play style. When you throw the ball as much as they did, defenses are gonna
pick up on that. Yeah, their pass rush is gonna pick up.
Right.
They're gonna stack the box, but not in a run stop formation. In a we're gonna knock that ball down formation.
Yep. And I think that hurt him a lot. Anything else on Flacco before we get into the running backs?
No, I want to see his talents used more. And
yeah.
I hope Morningweg realizes this, and they do that in the offseason, that he's got a quarterback with if they utilize his arm, Flacco will reach a whole nother level. That 4,000 yards, it's very easy for him to reach.
And yet he's only done it once because of how they've asked him to play.
And I think it's sad in a way to see those types of arm talents, because half these quarterbacks wish they could do that, and with ease.
Right. I think a big part of that could be setting up play action with the running game.
Yes.
Because if you get safety to bite on play action, and
that
you got Mike Wallace one-on-one against a cornerback, Flacco can just lob it up
and
for him.
And he knows his receivers are quick enough.
Yeah. Wallace, and we'll get to Rashad Perryman, was a rookie a couple years ago.
Well, even like Dennis Pitta and the running back, Terrence West. West is fast.
He is. I'm glad you mentioned Terrence West, because he was their starting running back this year. He spent time in Cleveland and Tennessee before getting picked up by Baltimore in 2015. But this was really his first year to start, because in 2015 was the Justin Forsett year. He's gone now, so West was the starter. And he was pretty good. He had 770 rushing yards, a 4.0 average, which for me, that's kind of like the benchmark. That's what you don't want to see, anything lower than 4.0 yards per carry. And he was right there. And 5 touchdowns to go along with that. And like you mentioned, he can catch too. He had 34 receptions for another 236 yards and a touchdown.
He's a good threat, and he fits this Baltimore team very, very well.
Yeah.
I wish they would have utilized the run game more.
Right.
And that's on the offensive coordinators too.
Yep. Agreed.
Because once again, there's another offensive talent that I think is just being wasted. Because those stats don't seem significant for a starting running back, but this offense is designed to throw, and yet they're not even throwing the ball well.
Right. Yeah, they've got some things to figure out with their play calling, because the amount of carries he had was low. If you extrapolated his numbers to what you would expect a starting running back to get, he would have been well over 1,000 yards, a few more touchdowns, and then his season would look much more impressive on paper.
Because whenever I saw him carry the ball, it looked good. The ball was secured, great ball handling abilities.
Yep.
And he was fast when he broke tackles. He was a quick son of a gun.
Yeah.
And it got you excited because, being an offense that was primarily known as passing, it was good to see that they could manage a ground game. They just need to call it more.
Right.
And balance this offense out.
And trust it. So complimenting West in the backfield was the rookie 4th-round pick, Kenneth Dixon. A lot of people were excited about him this offseason, wondering if he would take over the lead back role, because no one really knew what they'd get out of Terrence West at that time. But Dixon sprained his knee in the preseason, ended up missing the first 4 games of the season, and that was enough time for West to show everybody that he was ready to be the starter. Dixon still made kind of an impact, like we've talked about in I think every single show. No team has just one guy who carries the ball. And Dixon still ended up with 382 rushing yards, a 4.3 average, and 2 touchdowns. But the thing about Dixon, and part of this could have to do with being a rookie, is that he's much less of a factor catching passes. And he's a significantly worse pass blocker than West. So they don't trust him so much on the passing downs and shotgun formations. But I would expect these guys to be a nice committee in 2017 with West as the lead back.
And I think Dixon will develop.
He will. He's got plenty
He's got potential. He's got great stance. I don't see him going anywhere. With pass blocking protection, that just is a skill that you learn through experience. I could see him potentially, because West is so good at catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah.
I would use Dixon personally, as I would gear him up, strengthen his legs to make him my 3rd down runner. Where you could have, because you have the shiftiness, the pass catching of West, to complement that, you need a downhill goal line type runner.
Right.
And I think Dixon could be more into that with some training.
An interesting thing, since you mentioned the downhill running about the Ravens, is not too many teams use a fullback anymore. But the Ravens have a great one in Kyle Juszczyk. I think that's how you say it.
Yep, Juszczyk.
He's a fullback, and it's really nice to see.
He's a quick fullback.
Yeah.
He actually got some speed to him.
They use him as a receiver even. He has a decent amount of catches.
He plays left side, so second next to the number 2 receiver as a slot receiver. And the first time I saw him lined up in there, I was like, hold on a second. Like,
who is that?
This big dude is lined up. Like, you expect a tight end or something, and you look at his stats and his number, and you're like, that's a fullback.
Right. I just wanted to throw that in there because you mentioned the downhill running, because he does take some of that work. Sort of like remember John Kuhn in Green Bay. Kuhn. They would always bring him in for, like you said, those goal line situations. And Juszczyk is a free agent, and we'll get to the free agency part in a minute, but I think they should get him back.
I think so. It completes that backfield. And while they're developing Dixon, they know they have a pass blocker and a downhill runner. But I think Dixon could help back up Juszczyk in the downhill running game, because West is just shifty, maneuverable, and a very good pass catcher. You already have that covered.
Right.
You need to develop the other end of that, which is that complementary back of a downhill goal line runner.
Yeah. I think that's a wrap on the running back situation. It's looking good. So when talking about NFL receivers for the last 15 or so years, one of the names that's always been towards the top of the list,
I need a moment,
is Steve Smith.
Oh no.
And even in his final season, he was the Ravens' touchdown leader among their wide receivers, and he's always been a fan favorite. I guess depending on what team you're a fan of, but I've always enjoyed watching him play.
He's a good person. He's just a personable guy.
And really fun.
Off the field.
Really fun to watch play. But he's finally riding off into the sunset. It is sad. We'll all miss him. He finishes his career 7th on the NFL's all-time receiving yards leaders,
which is still a good way to end it.
He played in his career. He played 219 games, had over 1,000 receptions, 14,700 receiving yards, and 81 touchdowns. As a Steelers fan, I'm kind of relieved to see him go because he's been a thorn in their secondary side ever since he went to Baltimore. But as a fan of him and as a fan of the NFL as a whole, definitely going to miss like the tenacity that he played with. He's a physical guy. Like if you piss him off, he's going to show you. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's why corners like the Steelers didn't like that because they knew all they had to do was rattle his cage the wrong way, and all of a sudden, Pittsburgh corners were lying on the ground, and there goes Steve Smith.
And he never lost that. Even at age 37 this year, his final year, he played the same way.
It's just, the ball snaps. It's in Flacco's hand, and he's already 5-6 yards up the field in that half a second it takes for the ball to be snapped in shotgun position.
Yeah.
From center to quarterback. He's already 5-6 yards up the field, so it's...
We'll miss him. He's been fun to watch.
Baltimore is going to miss him, although they do have a comparable core that will grow. And I can't say to replace him in the way that, replace what he did, but at least they're not looking around like, I don't know what we do now.
Exactly. And that's a good segue into Rashad Perryman. Perryman missed his entire rookie year with a knee injury.
That wasn't where I was going, but okay.
but unlike other rookies who missed their entire rookie year, Kevin White, Perryman found himself, he found the field again. And this year he was playing third fiddle.
I didn't know he lost it. How do you lose a football field? It's 100 yards, dude.
Yeah, well, he had a head injury too.
Saw several fields.
He was the third receiver this year behind Smith and Mike Wallace. But he stayed healthy. He played in all 16 games. And he definitely showed flashes of his potential with some really impressive catches. Perryman has really strong hands. And he's a big body receiver.
He loves to bat down defenders' hands. And he's got to be careful because personally I saw a few times he could have been called for offensive pass interference. He does have a tendency to push off, and he needs to be careful because that, depending on who they're playing and who the referees are that day, that could put that ball spiraling in a different direction. But yes, it's good to see that they have a comparable physical receiver.
Yeah.
And a couple of them, actually.
Yeah. I would expect Perryman to be a starting receiver for them, either the one or two. Probably two behind, who I think you were going to next. Mike Wallace.
Yes.
All right, same page. So even though Wallace is 30 now, he still has the same speed that's always sort of defined what he does as a receiver throughout his career.
He's just fast.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other word to describe him really than just fast. His yards after the catch have always amazed me.
Yeah.
And I think that's great for, unfortunately, the style they play where it's quick dump pass and let him take off.
Like I mentioned when we were talking about the Steelers, he was on a quick slant in front of the linebacker, made the catch, and got 15 more yards after the catch just with his speed. So he's a weapon.
He's their new number one.
Yeah.
For sure.
And he had a few rough years after leaving Pittsburgh in 2012. But this year, he looked back to his top form.
Well, and I think it takes sometimes, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, is it takes time to adjust to a new offense.
Yeah.
Especially when you've been under one for so many years, you've got it drilled into your head. And now you go to an offense that could run completely different.
Right.
Now you have essentially a whole new book of God knows how many plays to memorize.
Yeah. So this is actually his first year with the Ravens, which is an even better sign for what he could do next year.
Yeah.
As he gets more and more comfortable, like you said. He had 72 catches, 1,015 yards. That's a 14 average, which is pretty decent, and 4 touchdowns, including the Ravens' longest play of the year, which was a 95-yard catch and run that he took all the way from probably his own 15-yard line, I think.
Yeah.
Outrunning everybody.
What made me happy was there was no offensive penalty called.
That's what you hate to see. A guy's running to the end zone.
Because I watch, and I'm trying to get ahead a little bit on watching some of these defenses, and I was watching the Patriots, and there was a snap from Jacoby Brissett on their own half-yard line. Dumped off to Julian Edelman, who went 90 yards to the other half-yard line, and it was called back because of an offensive holding. And it's like, it's so frustrating.
That's so frustrating. You're watching him run, and then you just see that little yellow flag thing
in the corner of the screen.
And just like, no.
You're like, well, this is one of 3 different things. None of which look good.
Right.
But he's, even though he's, 30?
Yeah.
He's got at least 3 good years left in him. Solid.
So, I think next year he'll be the number 1. Perryman will be the number 2. And potentially the number 3 guy leads me to my free agency pick for the Ravens, Kamar Aiken.
And what's actually, before you, real quick here, I actually have, now this is an older depth chart printed just after the a couple weeks after the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
They have Kamar Aiken listed as the number 2.
Interesting.
And they have Perriman, which would be number 3, which would be your slot receiver. I don't know if I fully agree with it, but let's see if you can change my mind as to why he would be the number 2.
Yeah, well, I don't have any more to say about Perriman. I think he should be the number 2. But let me give you what I got on Aiken. He had 2 seasons where he accumulated no stats at all to start his career with Buffalo and New England before the Ravens picked him up in 2014.
Good start. See why he's the number 2?
Hit the ground running. 2015 was his best year, and in that season, both Perryman and Smith missed most of the year. So he got to operate as the number 1 for a lot of that year, where he caught 75 balls, 944 yards, and 5 touchdowns. This past year, though, he kind of disappeared with both these guys back in the lineup.
Right.
He was back to playing.
And with Mike Wallace.
Oh, yeah. He was playing 4th fiddle, if that's a thing.
Sure. Open back set. And no back sets.
Yeah. This year he just had 29 catches, 300 yards, and 1 touchdown, but he just didn't see the field that much with those 3 guys ahead of him. Mm-hmm. And obviously now with Smith gone, there's a chance for him to come back as the number 2 or 3 if he gets re-signed. But should they re-sign him? Well, that was a rhetorical question.
Oh. Go on.
All right, so I watched his Week 6 game against the Giants. In this game, Steve Smith was out.
New York Giants?
Yeah, is that what I said?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, the New York Giants. Smith was injured in this game, so Aiken got to play the number 3 role. And I wrote here in parentheses, 2017 preview, question mark.
Oh, 2 question marks?
Yes, 2.
Oh.
And what I saw in this game was that he did play out of the slot a lot in this game. Mm-hmm. Whenever it was a 2 wide receiver set, it was mostly Wallace and Perryman. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where they want to go with him. But even when he was on the outside, he seemed to work almost exclusively in the middle of the field. Because I think he doesn't have that breakaway speed that Wallace has.
But he's got the vision. Mm-hmm. Which you normally see associated with slot receivers.
Yeah, and one play in particular, I saw him run a really nice, it's called a whip route, which I had to look up because I didn't know what it was called.
So what's a whip route?
All right, NFL wide receiver routes 101. Although this is I just scrolled pretty far down the list to find this one. This might be the 102 class. So whip route, he's on the left side of you could do it from either side. In this particular case, he's on the left side of the line. On the snap, he cuts towards the middle, basically mimicking a slant route. Mm-hmm. But then when he gets about even with the tackle, he stops in his tracks and angles back towards the sideline. It's about a 5-yard down the field route. He ran this really well. He totally fooled the cornerback that was on him.
Excellent.
And he beat the man coverage easily. Flacco found him, catch and run for about 11 yards. So that was good to see.
Well, and it's like going that far down the list, too, as you're using plays that aren't commonly covered. Because usually if I saw that type of route, I would expect a curl route.
Yeah.
Or something.
Or expect him to just keep going and have it be a slant, because that's what it mimics at the beginning. This was more the exception than the rule, though, as I saw him struggle to beat man coverage most of the time. He did do better against zone, though. He seemed to be good at finding a hole in the zone, settling down, and letting Flacco find him. He caught 4 balls on 6 targets for 60 yards, no drops, no penalties. Oh, he also had a key run block on a 2-yard touchdown run. That was to his side of the field.
I love seeing that because you will not find that in stats.
Right, exactly. You really have to watch.
You have to watch, and that's why I love watching film.
And a lot of receivers don't block well. So this was good to see.
And real quick, finish up the offense with the tight ends.
Well, hold on.
Whoa.
My verdict is they should re-sign him.
Oh,
and he should be the number 3. Okay.
I agree.
Okay, cool.
I like it. I don't like the way they have him line up as the number 2.
Yeah, I
think Perriman and Wallace make a bigger threat because you also have in the tight end position you have Dennis Pitta, which has always been a security blanket for Flacco.
He's another receiver essentially.
But Crockett Gilmore, I love these names.
Yeah,
Crockett
and
Gilmore.
Max with 2X Williams. They've got some great, phenomenal tight ends.
I didn't even realize that they were Nick Boyle, who in my Madden game I traded Baltimore for and put him on Atlanta, and was just amazing.
Made him a star.
Yeah, when I beat the Tennessee Titans in the Super Bowl. Those two tight ends really, Crockett Gilmore and Dennis Pitta stand out. Dennis Pitta has always been a security blanket, but Crockett Gilmore's made some big plays too.
Yeah. And Gilmore is a much better blocking tight end than Pitta is. Pitta is almost exclusively another receiver. Gilmore can block though.
And I think in a 2 tight end set, I would have Gilmore Crockett start over Benjamin Watson.
Yeah, we're running behind schedule. That move surprised me though, because they signed him last year because they already have good depth at tight end with Pitta, Williams, and Gilmore, who I would consider, as you said, the number 2.
But we're going to try to move quickly as we flip to the defensive side of the ball. We get really excited about the AFC North.
Yeah, apparently. I had a whole thing on Justin Tucker that we're not going to get to.
Well, what do you say about Tucker? Then he's,
okay.
Automatica Grammatica the second.
In 15 seconds, he only missed 1 field goal last year, which was blocked. He had a long of 57. One of 4 kickers, only 4 kickers did not miss an extra point at all last year with the new rule change. And I want to see him kick a 75-yard field goal in a real game, which he did in Pro Bowl practice just a few weeks ago. All right, defense, go.
Well, I'm going to take 9 more seconds. He brought up the idea, too, to make the games more interesting, that if you kick a field kickoff through the uprights, you should get a point.
I saw that. That's awesome. I love Justin Tucker. He's phenomenal.
Draft him in your fantasy if you want consistency.
Yes.
All right, defense. Ravens' defense is... I thought it was going to be more outstanding than what I'd witnessed. It's a very average defense. There isn't a whole lot. My free agency was Gerard Powers. But their rankings overall were actually pretty good. The average allowed per game was 20.1 points, which was 9th. 322.1, that's a good thing we don't have a camera. 322.1 yards, which is 7th overall. 232.8 passing yards, which is 9th, and 89.4 rush yards, which was rated 5th. So they were really good rush defense. Yeah. And that's what I saw too. Once again, A-gap, B-gap runs they were good at. Everybody that I've watched struggled with edge runs. I don't know if it's because you don't expect it or if they just happen to call the right blockers to seal the edge.
Right.
An instance, though, where they did struggle against the run was Week 7 versus the Jets. So, a minute to 12 left in the first quarter, there was a blown coverage that resulted in a touchdown. I believe it was on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And it was just, they bit on an inside play, so the safety came forward, leaving it man-to-man. And he happened to do almost, I don't know if that's a technical term, but like a wiggle route where he kind of comes in and back out the inside and back out a couple of times as he runs down the field to sort of get the space rather than taking the chance of pushing off.
Right.
And just in the end zone, there he went. But
looks like, based on your stats, if there is a weak link here, it's more the secondary.
Yes. Yeah, because they were 9th in passing yards. But these AFC North teams play a lot of soft zone, and it drives me nuts. Surprisingly, though, this was the only game that they struggled against the B gap run. So it's still technically an inside run, but it's between the guard and the tackle.
Yeah.
And it was weird because these runs would average about 8 yards.
That's way more than you want to give up.
For a defense that ranked 5th in the league against the rush.
Yeah. And they have some linebackers that I'm a real big fan of, and Terrell Suggs and C.J. Mosley.
Oh,
Mosley got in the middle. Suggs is outside linebacker.
But Speaking of where you noticed that it was their secondary that was the knife. Against Fitzpatrick, the golden dagger he held, or the silver bullet, was on the screens. They were terrible against screen plays. If you threw a screen against Baltimore, they bit the run, and they left that receiver open. And they were burned. And Forte was a huge problem. They could not keep him under wraps. But Forte is a very good runner.
That he is, yeah.
So I'm going to wrap up with my free agency player of Gerard Powers. And I don't like him. I think he needs to go. And my defense for this is based off the stats I have. Is he spent 4 years with the Colts and 3 with the Cardinals before he came into Baltimore. This is his first year in Baltimore, but there's a trend. Mike's looking over my shoulder and can confirm this.
Just to make sure he reads correctly.
That could be an issue. His first season with each team was his highest benchmark. And as he played, it decreased. So if you're going off of past tendencies, this year he only had a combined 33 tackles, 1 sack, 5 points defended, and 2 interceptions. If that's as high as he's going to go, and he's going to have a tendency to drop from there, it's not worth it. I think the move they should make, and I don't think we've done this in another episode where we've actually mentioned who they should grab.
No, I don't think we have.
Logan Ryan from the Patriots is an unrestricted free agent. I would release Powers and pick up someone who overall has a better production. Because if he's going to decrease from here, how much lower can you go? I mean, he made a huge improvement from going from the Colts to the Cardinals, but he made a huge decrease going from the Cardinals to the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I don't think they need him really because they've got Jimmy Smith and Sharice Wright are their starters. They're pretty solid. They've got Tavon Young covering the slot.
Tavon Young's my favorite.
Yeah.
I really like what this kid's got.
Nice. And then, yeah, so I agree with you. I don't think they need to re-sign him.
That's what I would do is I would grab Logan Ryan if you're looking for another good guy.
Yeah, that would really beef up this secondary.
Because other than that, you have Eric Weddle, who's an amazing safety.
Eric Weddle was, I think, their best off-season move last year was signing Eric Weddle. I still think it was really a bad move by the Chargers to let him go for whatever bad blood there was between the team and the players. Seemed like there was some, but the Ravens benefit because he's their free safety now, their strong safety. Sorry,
correct,
and he's really good.
Yeah. Final thoughts on the Baltimore offense, Mike?
I think they have a lot of potential. That my biggest worry is their coordinator, honestly, and the play calling, because they've got a good pair of running backs. They've got strong receivers, at least 2. Hopefully no one gets injured. And I do like Flacco. Flacco's good. He can throw, and a more balanced offense will only help him. And I think his receivers, I think Perryman's improving a lot. Next year will be his first. Well, it'll be his second full season, hopefully his first as a starter. And we talked about Mike Wallace is good. I think this offense has a lot of potential.
Defensively, they're not bad. They're not terrible. They ranked within the top 10 on everything, so they're overall a top 10 defense, which they have been for the past few years. They pride themselves on physicality.
Right.
Despite that they were 5th in the run, I think they need to work on their edge rushing to stop these edge runs so they stop getting burned. Weddle was a huge improvement to their secondary as one of their safeties, and I think he's only going to get better with this defense. Corners, I think, need a little bit more improvement. I would like to see a little bit more physicalness with them, especially when it comes to securing tackles. It's just been a problem I've noticed with a lot of these AFC North teams. It's just securing tackles, even though they pride themselves on physicality. But they are too full. I think it's just a lot of offensive adjustment needed. And I agree with you. I think they need to utilize Flacco's arm more. And this team will be able to contend year after year after year.
Yeah, definitely more excited about next year's Ravens-Steelers games than this year's.
Oh, for sure. All right, so with that, we are finished with Baltimore. Thank you guys for listening to us yet again on another video, talking forever. If you like what you heard, there's a subscribe and like button below. Please feel free to click those. Leave your comments on how you feel about the Ravens, offense and defensively, if you're a Flacco fan or not. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Take care.